What's going on, everybody? This is the Black Trekker. Thank you for taking time out your morning, afternoon, or evening to sit in with me for a few ticks as I talk to you about Season 2, Episode 1, Broken Circle of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, with that being said, we finally got Star Trek back, thankfully. And I have to say that I'm going to give you my likes, my dislikes about the episode, and go from there. All right, so this episode takes place on the USS Enterprise, where Captain Christopher Pike is talking to Number One. It shows a recap of the previous season where they discovered that Number One, she had lied about her actual species that she was affiliated with on her entrance exam to Starfleet. And for whatever reason, I guess her species was a contentious species that Starfleet had issues with. And then from there, it was proven through her effort and her dedication that she was actually a person of substance and character. So from that, Christopher Pike has had a level of faith and trust in her, and he's basically trying to fight for her. So basically, this episode is where Christopher Pike is basically talking to her. I guess she's at some kind of gulag. She's in some kind of like prison, and she's looking to cop a plea or some kind. But the plea is going to be really predicated on her giving up her commission in Starfleet and then having to just go and do whatever. So anyway, they're at Space Dock. They're at Space Dock 1. And interesting thing about this is that the Space Dock, when the actual episode starts, it's like these like little craft vehicles that are flying. And I gotta say, the CGI is not bad. It could have been better. But it is connected. And I mean, this Space Dock is huge. I mean, to give context, I would say that it was, if not way bigger than the space docks actually on Star Trek proper, say TNG, it was gigantic. It was huge because it made the Enterprise, it was like superimposed the Enterprise picture. And the Enterprise is massive in itself. I think the original Enterprise was around, and then don't quote me because I know it's going to be those individuals that are going to be like, well, you were actually off. The Enterprise A was like 237 meters. I believe that the Enterprise A, the initial size was around like 290 to 330 meters. So basically the equivalent of an aircraft carrier of today, like the USS Ford. But the thing is that they're at Space Dock and they have these tubules that are connected to the ship, and they also have a docking ramp. And so everybody's predominantly on shore leave. There's, of course, a skeleton crew. But the thing is that Christopher Pike is talking to her like, listen, don't give up. Don't give up. And he has to make a trip where he needs to leave the ship for approximately 3 days. And he's going to do it in the shuttlecraft. And he's basically got to go to like the other side of the sector to be able to get a request from somebody that's in charge of that gulag. And so from there, Christopher Pike is basically going to take his time to go and, excuse me, people, take his time to go and be able to basically says as her captain, like, listen, I need her. She's valuable to my crew. And so because of that, he's going to do that, but he's leaving Spock in charge. And Spock has a bit of trepidation. He has a little bit of nervousness because in the previous season where he was fighting a Gorn, what it transpired was that he had to get angry. And it harkens back to like the Incredible Hulk, Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And so Spock got angry. But because he got angry, he also released feelings. And he also released feelings for the lady named Nurse Chapel. So with that being said, it's going to be an interesting dynamic because, in Star Trek proper, Spock had a relationship with Uhura. And that was interesting. Well, that's the J.J. Abrams verse. But nonetheless, Spock is in charge. So he has hesitation. So what happens is that they get a Incident Uhura gets a distress signal. And it's coming from one of their security officers. And her name escapes me, but nonetheless, one of their security officers. And basically, she needs help, and she's saying that basically there's something that's going to affect the Federation. Now, this is coming from a planet that is rich in dilithium. Now, the Federation and the Klingon Empire have made an agreement since the war, basically to say, look, this planet is going to be neutral ground. However, for 30 days, and it's 12 months in a year, so for 30 days, for 6 months, the Federation controls it. For 6 months, the Klingon Empire controls it. So this distress signal is being sent out when the Klingon Empire is in control of this actual planet. They're mining the dilithium, and they're actually getting it, putting it into their ships so their ships can go. So with that being said, this is something that is of concern, because the actual old security officer is basically saying like, hey, this is interesting to the Federation because something is going on here. There's anti-Federation. But, Spock sends it up to the chain of command, and the Admiral's like, no. The Admiral's like, in 30 days, we'll go and we'll see what's what. Because then the Federation actually have the right to be there. But in un-Vulcan behavior, Spock disregards that, and he just says, okay, no. And at the same time, they're a space dock, so the ship is getting like retrofitted and getting upgraded, and their systems are being checked. And then also, people that are from space dock are also critiquing what they've done with certain aspects of the ship, because it's not in Starfleet spec. It's not Starfleet norm. So because it's not Starfleet norm, they're getting a little bit of chastisement from these people. Case in point, when you're going to the con, where somebody is getting ridiculed for the fact that it's out of order. It's not like at the exact point that it's supposed to be at. And then the ensign, I forgot her name, was like, I'm not trying to get shot at. So I respect that. I can understand why she made that modification. And then also when the one guy went over to change the communication array, Lieutenant Uhura was like, nah, I got to keep one open because you might mess something up. So I understand that. So with that being said, the episode comes off as being pretty good and written really well. And I like the fact that with Spock, what they've done is they've made his human aspect come out, because as Vulcans, they're really regimented, they're really like focused, and they're really like disciplined. But in this instance, Spock's got issues. So what happens is that Spock goes and talks to Dr. Umbenga. That's interesting enough. I remember his name, but I don't remember everybody else's. Dr. Umbenga. And Dr. Umbenga tells him that, he needs to be able to figure out a way to control his emotions. But what Dr. Umbenga does do is he gives him, I want to say it's like a guitar. And he plays it, and he noticed that his vital signs are starting to equilibrium. They're starting to equalize out, because at this point they're like really high. But when Nurse Chapel came in, they went back up. I don't understand that dynamic. Like, I don't understand why did that occur. Like, why did his vitals go back all the way up to like a stress level? I don't get that. Maybe everybody in the audience, they could tell me why that transpired. What was the reason behind that? I mean, I thought he liked her. I thought they was in some kind of like romantic dynamic. So anyway, with that being said, so he goes back to his room and he's playing his harp and all of that, and then he makes a decision. Like, he gets the senior staff, and he's like, look, we got to get all these inspectors off the ship. We got to do that like today. ASAP. All right, everybody, check it out. It's about to start raining, so, bear with me. And so they devise a way to get everybody off the ship, and basically making it look like it's going to be a warp core breach. Now, for everybody else at the starbase, they don't know. They gullible. But then all of a sudden they're on the bridge, and Spock just waiting for the Admiralty to say, hey, get away from the space station. And then that's when they're going to go to warp. And then, the old saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So he's just like, look, I'm just going to do that adage. And it wasn't said in the actual episode, but that's the rationale. I'm going to ask for forgiveness rather than permission, because if you ask for permission to go, you're going to get shot down. And I mean, technically he did ask for permission and he got shot down. So at this point, you got to go. And I'm pretty sure Christopher Pike would have did it regardless, especially for that security chief. Absolutely, he would have did it, and he would have just dealt with the consequences after the fact. So anyway, then this old lady comes onto the bridge, and I guess she's some type of engineer. I wasn't exactly some kind of Lanthian. I think that's what the name is. I'm not familiar with the culture. I would assume based off of Lanthians, they live like a very long time, like far longer than humans, far longer than Vulcans. And Spock has always been interested in Lanthians, as he made the statement about, because they nigh immortal. So with that being said, she was like, basically saying like, hey, to the untrained eye, this would look like a warp core breach, but in actuality, this is actually textbook somebody trying to play games. And she was like, you know what? And she's already knowing what they're trying to do. And she's like, look, if you're trying to like, make it look realistic, then you need to vent plasma from the nacelles. Because if you vent plasma from the nacelles, then that'll make it really look like it's going to be a warp core breach. So the actual helmsman is looking at Spock and like, because he's acting captain, and he was like, "Yo, you trying to help us?" And she was like, "Duh, that's why I'm here." And so what happens is that he gives the order, they vent the plasma, and then Starfleet, the Admiralty tells them like, basically get away from the space station. And once they get to a safe distance away from the space station, they go to warp, and then they're headed in that direction. And so this is what transpires. So then eventually they finally get to the planet, and again, this is in Klingon territory, but it's also shared by the Federation. And because of this, what it transpires is that the Klingon actually, they are hiding behind the fragments of, I guess, a comet or some kind of planetary object that just like broken up, and they're hiding there because Klingons patrol ships do come through every once in a while, and they actually are involved in scanning the perimeter. So what happens is that they beam down, they meet the security chief, again I forget her name, and then what happens is that she's basically telling them the gist that something's going awry. They're not sure. So Dr. M'Benga and Nurse Chapel, they're going to go help some Goran refugees, and they're basically trying to help them. Now, interesting thing enough is the Goran are actually a vassal state of the Klingon Empire. As much as terrorizing as the Goran are, they were subjugated by the Klingon Empire. Now, I want to say this is a prequel, so therefore this may have not necessarily happened yet, but the Klingons kicked the dog mess out of the Goran. They kicked the dog shit out of them. So that means that as vicious and as terrifying as the Goran is, they ain't know the brutality of the Klingons is far worse. Far worse. And this probably was a challenge to the Klingons, because they was like, okay, we got this predatory species that lays eggs inside of you, and then they come out and create more. This is a great challenge. And, the Klingons, dismantled him with ease. Now, I will say this. What I don't like about it is the ridges. What's going on with the ridges? Why? This show got a budget of like $4 million an episode. What's going on with the ridges, y'all? Why does the ridges still look all jacked up and crazy? Why? They need to look like TNG ridges. For real. Ugh. Man, I tell you, J.J. Abrams and freaking, what's that dude name? Not J.J. Abrams got it partially right. But Alex Kurtzman. I feel like Alex Kurtzman's fingers are still in it. I know it's supposed to be like Terry Matalas. He's supposed to be doing a lot with the Star Trek series he's now, but I don't really agree. I think Alex Kurtzman is still messing around and dabbling in the Star Trek. Stop messing with the Klingon ridges. Get them correct. Anyway, so that's my first initial gripe, is the ridges. All right, so then the Klingons, Dr. M'Benga is helping, and he's administering, inoculants to the people that are there, which is all noble and all well good. And so what happens is they're meeting the security officer, and then they're like, okay, well, Federation hardware is being stolen. And they're like, what? Why would they need Federation hardware? And so basically what happens is Dr. M'Benga and Nurse Chapel, they get captured by, I guess, the rebel forces of Klingons. And then what transpires is that they're taken to a Federation ship. What? How did the Federation ship get lost? Anyway, they turned off the transponder of the Federation ship, so the Federation ship wouldn't be known to the Federation. Now, mind you, all this time the Federation was there for like 6 months out of the year, and they didn't even know that it was a Starfleet ship on said planet. What? So that lets you know that Starfleet ain't as advanced as they thought they is. So anyway, make a long story short, Dr. Umbenga has some kind of chemical. Now, I forgot what the chemical is. I don't remember. I guess I got to go watch season 1 again. But the chemical gave him like superhuman strength and speed and dexterity and resilience, because they banged out at least, I want to say, 20 Klingons. And I mean, Klingons are 3 to 4 times stronger than humans. So with that being said, they banged out them Klingons like they was freaking augments. They beat the shit out of them. So, and that's Dr. Umbenga. And I don't know where Dr. Mbenga's from. I know he said something about being from the war, but Dr. Mbenga seemed like he got some skills. Like he could fight. Like for real fight. And then, of course, Nurse Chapel. And I did like Dr. Mbenga's outfit. That joint looked like a gangster. It was kind of like a blade cross. It was serious. And then let's see. Everybody was dressed in black. And I'm grateful. Look, I'm also grateful about this. The lighting in this episode has improved. Thank you. Stop with this dark ass freaking gloomy dark shadow type shit. Stop with that. Stop with that freaking lighting. That stuff is terrible. Anyway, so yeah, the lighting. Now, I did forget this. Before they left and they went to warp, the bridge crew is like, hey, you know, Captain Pike has a saying, and all officers in the chair have a saying. And then Spock was like, I would like the ship to go now. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. That was so cheesy and corny. Like, I swear, I'm going to make a post on Facebook about that. I would like the ship to go now. That's when he returns back to being a Vulcan. Because that is some uncharacteristically non-human shit that somebody that has no personality would say. So anyway, this ship, it departs, and Dr. Umbenga and Nurse Chapel are trapped. They're looking for a way to escape. They find a helmet with a transponder, and they're like basically like, okay. And so basically a Klingon D7 appears in the orbit. And Klingon D7, the graphics could have looked a lot better. Come on, y'all. But the D7 appears, and the D7 starts scanning the area. The Enterprise is hid in the fragmentary of the planetoid, and they're not being detected. So that lets you know the Klingon sensors suck. And so with that being said, the Klingons go about their business. They're leaving the area. But see, what happens is this is a false flag campaign. What the rebels want to do is they want to attack this Klingon ship. And although that ship that they were in is no match for a D7, no way. What happens is that they're trying to go and catch up, but the D7 sensors are detecting a ship. It's not exactly clear if it's a Federation ship or anything, but it's a ship. So the Klingon ship turns around and is almost in weapons range. But thankfully, the Nurse Chapel and Dr. Umbenga escape, but they're in space. They don't got no spacesuit on. And Nurse Chapel, she always being doom and gloom, talking about she gonna die. You are in the 22nd century. Y'all ain't gonna die. Not with the Enterprise out there. And so what happens is that the Enterprise detects, as they're about to fire upon these rogue people, the Enterprise detects that the transponder. So Spock orders him to be beamed on. And, you know, Dr. Mbenga's bleeding from his eyes, and he got like the frost. And, you know, Spock runs down there and he provides CPR. The Nurse Chapel, she wakes back up, you know, because he got feelings for her. And they destroy the other Federation ship. And what happens is that the Klingons observe this. So the Klingons go on the view screen. It's like, Captain Spock, you know, you're being held by the Klingons. The Klingons go in there and was like, you know, why did you blow up your own ship? Maybe because you knew that you was about to be defeated by us. It was like, nah, we're not going to be defeated by y'all. This was a rogue Federation ship, and we weren't trying to start no war with y'all. And so he was like, okay. And he was like, well, you know what? Spock made a suggestion about some Klingon blood wine. And he was like, wait a second. You drank Klingon blood wine? I'd love to see this. I ain't never seen a Vulcan drink blood wine before, ever. You know, and for the most part, Klingons can live to be like 150 years old. So with that being said, that captain, he probably has been around for like 75 years, 80 years in service to the Klingon Empire, the KDF. And so with that being said, he ain't never seen no shit like this. He ain't never seen no Vulcan drink Klingon blood wine. So what happens is a few moments later, they're beaming down to the planet, and then it's Spock, it's the Klingon captain, it's Klingons around, and Spock is drinking the blood wine, and he's like, like grunting and growling. And the Klingons was like, wow, this motherfucker really drinks blood wine. And so with that being said, they got respect for him because, realistically speaking, humans and Vulcans really can't drink blood wine. That shit is pungent. It's very acidic. It's kind of foul. Just like when people in Star Trek Deep Space Nine be like, I want some Klingon coffee. I want the Raktajino. And people are like, oh, the Raktajino is terrible. You got to have a strong palate to drink Raktajino. It ain't like regular coffee. It ain't like regular coffee. It's like coffee with like whiskey and freaking bourbon that's hot. So, and Raktajino ain't cold. It's hot. So with that being said, yeah, it's a whole dynamic that you got to ingest, and your stomach gonna be toe up. But I mean, like Jadzia, she could drink that junk all day because her previous host Curzon drunk it on a regular basis because he got accustomed to it. So with that being said, Spock has a good understanding with this Klingon captain. Nothing is going to be started. And the Klingons, they generally keep their word. So with that being said, he doesn't have to worry about the Klingon telling Klingon the command what's going to go on. And then he gets back to that lady and he talks to her, and she's a Lanthian. And he was like, it's surprising that your people were on Earth for like up until the 22nd century before y'all was detected by humans. And, and she was just like, yeah, but it's so boring, in like Starfleet. It's so boring in the Starbase teaching. And she's just like, I heard you short on the engineer. So with that being said, I can help you. And she wants to stay around. And she was like, the sad thing about being almost immortal is, and again, I got to do more research on the Lanthians, because that makes me think about like Stargate Lanthians. So with that being said, I got to do some more research, but I guess they're like nigh immortal. So they're kind of like Elorians. They live for a very, very, very long time. And, she was on Earth she was on Earth during the 20th century. That's something. I mean, because she looks just like a human. So, I mean, they would be able to blend in. So with that being said, that ends well. They're en route back to the Federation territory. Spock is getting chewed out by the Admiral. And he's like, yeah, you're Klingon. He was like, are you drunk? And he's like, yeah, I'm drunk, dude. I drunk some Klingon blood wine. And so with that being said, he was like, yeah, that's your punishment, which I think that was a weak ass punishment. But the actual scene that came next when the Admiral was actually talking to the other Admiral, talking about his two fronts. And he was like, we're dealing with the Klingons, although it's tenuous. And then we're also dealing with the Gorns. Now, again, I made a statement about the Gorns being a vassal state of the Klingon Empire in the 24th century. This is before the 24th century, so they're not yet, but they're dealing with the Gorn incident. And in the beginning of the episode actually, there was a map, and it was blue and red. And I thought it was the Klingons, because the Klingons are synonymous with being red. But the actual Gorn are red too. So apparently the Federation is dealing with a Gorn infestation to an extent. Which the Federation technology is superior to the Gorn, so they should kick their ass easy. Anyway, so this is what happened in episode episode 1. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you sitting there with me for a few ticks. Definitely check out the episode again. I'm probably going to watch it again. This is all off the cuff, off the memory. And, thanks for sitting there with me. Like, share, subscribe, and live long and prosper.